In a large city filled with noise and activity, life moved at its usual fast pace. People hurried to work, cars honked in traffic, and children laughed as they played in the park. Among them were Daniel Carter, a quiet man who worked in a small bookstore, and Laura Bennett, a nurse who spent her days caring for others. They lived ordinary lives, just like everyone else around them. But one morning, everything changed. It started subtly. A mother tried to wake her child for school, but the child didn't respond. At first, she thought he was ignoring her, but when she touched his shoulder, she realized something was wrong. He simply stared at her, wide-eyed, unable to speak. Across town, Daniel noticed a strange silence in the bookstore. Customers walked in, picked up books, and left without saying a word. He tried to greet them, but no sound came out of his mouth. Panic began to rise in his chest, but there was nothing he could do about it. By noon, the entire city had fallen eerily quiet. Phones rang unanswered because no one could pick them up. Social media platforms went dark as posts stopped appearing. Even babies, who usually cried or babbled, sat silently in their cribs. The streets were still busy, but instead of conversations, there was only the hum of footsteps and distant car engines. It wasn't just the city. Reports poured in from other parts of the world. In every country, every town, and every home, humans had stopped talking. Governments acted quickly, calling emergency meetings and sending scientists to investigate. News channels aired nonstop coverage, relying on text overlays since anchors couldn't speak either. Experts speculated endlessly. Was it a virus, a malfunction in brain chemistry, or perhaps an alien attack? No one had answers. Tests showed that people weren't physically damaged. They could breathe, move, and think, but their ability to produce sound had vanished completely. Daniel wandered the streets, feeling both scared and curious. He saw others doing the same, their faces reflecting confusion and fear. Despite the silence, there was a strange sense of calm. Without words, people seemed to focus more on what truly mattered. Strangers helped each other instinctively, sharing food or guiding lost children back to their families. It was as if humanity had found a new way to connect, even though they couldn't explain how. Laura felt this change too. At the hospital where she worked, patients and staff communicated through gestures and expressions. Doctors wrote notes to share diagnoses, while nurses used hand signals to coordinate care. For the first time, Laura noticed how much unnecessary chatter usually filled her days. Now, actions spoke louder than words ever could. As hours turned into days, the rest of the galaxy took notice. Alien civilizations, which had long ignored Earth, suddenly grew curious. The Galactic Council, a group of advanced species that governed interstellar affairs, watched closely. They had always seen humans as primitive, chaotic beings unworthy of attention. But now, the sudden silence intrigued them. What did it mean? Had humanity destroyed itself somehow? Or was this the beginning of something far greater? For Daniel and Laura, the silence brought not just fear, but also wonder. Though they didn't know it yet, their lives, and the fate of humanity, were about to change forever. Far above the silent planet of Earth, aboard a massive orbital station made of shimmering metal and glowing lights, the Galactic Council gathered. The Council was a group of powerful alien leaders from different species across the galaxy. They had come together to discuss the strange events unfolding on Earth. Though they rarely paid attention to humanity before, this sudden silence had caught their interest and their fear. Zenara, a tall reptilian creature with scales that glinted like emeralds, sat at the center of the room. She flicked her forked tongue as she scanned the reports in front of her. Her sharp eyes narrowed. "This is meaningless," she hissed, her voice cold and dismissive. "Humans are insignificant. Their silence will pass, or they will destroy themselves as they always do." But not everyone agreed. Kaler, a sleek aquatic being with translucent skin and flowing tendrils, floated silently in a tank of water beside his seat. His large, unblinking eyes gazed at Cenera. "You underestimate them," he said softly, his thoughts projecting directly into the minds of those around him. "I have studied their broadcasts. Months ago, we detected unusual signals, patterns suggesting experiments with consciousness. Perhaps this silence is not an accident but a transformation." The other council members murmured among themselves, some agreeing with Zanara, others leaning toward Kaler's theory. One member, a bird-like alien named Viral, flapped her wings nervously. "If Kaler is correct, then humanity may be evolving faster than we imagined," she chirped. "What happens when they surpass us? Will they see us as allies or enemies?" To settle the debate, the Council decided to send probes to investigate Earth's atmosphere. These small robotic devices were equipped with sensors capable of detecting energy fields and psychic activity. When the data came back, it confirmed Kaler's suspicions. Strange pulses of energy radiated from Earth, unlike anything the Council had encountered before. It seemed humanity was generating these waves collectively, as if billions of minds had merged into one. Fear rippled through the council chamber. Some members shifted uncomfortably in their seats, while others exchanged worried glances. For centuries, they had dismissed humans as chaotic and primitive, too divided by language, culture, and war to pose any real threat. But now, humanity appeared unified, not just in silence but in purpose. Zanara slammed her clawed hand on the table. "Enough," she snapped. "We cannot let this continue. If humans are truly evolving, we must act before they become dangerous. We should strike now, while they are vulnerable." Kaler turned his gaze to her, his expression calm but firm. "And what would that achieve?" he asked. "Violence will only confirm their fears about us. Besides, you saw the data. Their power is growing rapidly. Any attack might fail and provoke retaliation. Instead, we should observe further and prepare for diplomacy." The council argued for hours, unable to reach a decision. Meanwhile, Earth remained eerily quiet. From space, the planet looked peaceful, its cities glowing faintly under the night sky. Yet beneath its surface, something extraordinary was happening. Humans were connecting in ways no one could fully understand, sharing thoughts and emotions without words. Ideas flowed freely between them, solving problems that once seemed impossible. Back on Earth, Daniel Carter wandered through the streets, feeling both awe and unease. He didn't know why he could no longer speak, but he sensed a deeper connection with the people around him. Laura Bennett felt it too. As she helped patients at the hospital, she realized she could anticipate their needs before they gestured or wrote them down. It was as if she could feel their thoughts. Unbeknownst to humanity, the Galactic Council watched closely, their fear growing. They had underestimated Earth once before, but this time, they weren't sure what to expect. And as days passed, it became clear that humanity's transformation was far from over. Daniel Carter and Laura Bennett had always lived ordinary lives, but now they found themselves at the center of something extraordinary. The silence that had fallen over humanity wasn't just an absence of sound, it was the beginning of a new way of being. People were changing, connecting in ways no one could have imagined. And Daniel and Laura were among the first to fully embrace it. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Daniel walked through the quiet streets of the city. He felt drawn to a park where groups of people had gathered. They sat together in silence, their faces calm and focused. Some held hands, while others simply stared into the distance. At first, Daniel hesitated, unsure of what to do. But then he noticed a familiar figure, Laura. She sat cross-legged on the grass, her eyes closed, her expression peaceful. Without thinking, Daniel approached her. As he sat down beside her, he felt a strange warmth spread through his chest. It wasn't physical heat, but something deeper, like a connection forming between them. Suddenly, images and emotions flooded his mind. He saw glimpses of Laura's life. Her childhood dreams, her struggles as a nurse, her hopes for the future. And she saw his too. No words were needed. Their thoughts flowed freely, blending together like colors on a canvas. This newfound connection wasn't unique to Daniel and Laura. Across the world, humans were experiencing the same phenomenon. In homes, schools, and workplaces, people shared their innermost thoughts without hesitation. Old grudges dissolved as misunderstandings melted away. Strangers became friends, united by a sense of purpose they couldn't quite explain. Humanity was evolving, shedding its divisions and embracing unity. As days turned into weeks, this collective consciousness grew stronger. Cities transformed into hubs of silent collaboration. People worked together seamlessly, building structures and solving problems with remarkable efficiency. Factories hummed with activity as workers communicated telepathically, their actions perfectly synchronized. Scientists made breakthroughs in medicine, technology, and energy, sharing knowledge instantly across continents. Laura played a key role in this transformation. At the hospital, she led teams of doctors and nurses who operated with unmatched precision. Without the need for spoken instructions, surgeries were performed flawlessly. Patients healed faster, not just physically but emotionally, as caregivers poured compassion directly into their minds. Laura felt a deep sense of fulfillment she had never known before. Meanwhile, Daniel discovered a talent he didn't realize he had. When he focused his thoughts, he could project images and feelings to others nearby. This ability allowed him to guide groups of people, helping them visualize solutions to complex challenges. Together, they designed towering structures that seemed to defy the laws of physics. These buildings pulsed with energy, glowing softly in the night like beacons of hope. The changes on Earth did not go unnoticed by the Galactic Council. From their orbital station, they monitored the planet with growing unease. The energy readings from Earth had intensified, creating ripples that disturbed nearby star systems. Zinara watched with clenched fists, her fear turning to anger. "They are becoming too powerful," she growled. "If we don't stop them now, they will overshadow us." Kaler, however, remained calm. He studied the data carefully, marveling at humanity's rapid evolution. "They are not a threat," he said gently. "They are learning to coexist, not just with each other, but with the universe itself. Perhaps we have much to learn from them." But not everyone on the council shared Kaler's optimism. Whispers of dissent spread among the members, and plans began to form in secret. Humanity's transformation was far from over, and soon they would face a choice: to rise above fear or succumb to it. The Galactic Council could no longer ignore what was happening on Earth. Humanity's transformation had reached a point where it demanded attention, not just observation but action. After days of heated debate, the Council decided to send envoys to confront the humans directly. They chose 3 representatives: Zinara, who still viewed humanity with suspicion; Kaler, who believed in their potential; and Viral, the bird-like diplomat known for her cautious approach. The envoys arrived in sleek ships that descended silently from the sky. These vessels hovered above major cities, their metallic surfaces reflecting the sunlight. People on the ground paused to look up, their expressions calm but curious. There was no panic, no fear, only a quiet readiness to face whatever came next. Daniel Carter stood in the middle of a bustling square, surrounded by others who had gathered to witness the event. He felt a sense of purpose, as if he had been waiting for this moment his entire life. Beside him, Laura Bennett placed a hand on his shoulder, her thoughts flowing into his mind. "We are ready," she thought, her voice soft but firm in his head. He nodded, feeling the same resolve ripple through the crowd. The alien envoys stepped out of their ships, their forms strange yet fascinating. Zinara's scales shimmered like jewels, while Kaler floated gracefully in a hovering pod filled with water. Viral flapped her wings gently, her feathers glinting in shades of gold and green. They approached the humans cautiously, unsure of how to proceed. To their astonishment, Daniel stepped forward without hesitation. His eyes met theirs, and though he did not speak aloud, his thoughts projected clearly into their minds. "We are no longer bound by your expectations," he said, his mental voice steady and strong. You feared us because we were chaotic, but now we are whole." The envoys froze, caught off guard by the depth of his message. Zinara bristled, her sharp teeth bared slightly in frustration. She had expected resistance or confusion, not this overwhelming clarity. Kaler, however, remained calm, his large eyes blinking slowly as he absorbed Daniel's words. Viral tilted her head, studying him with keen interest. Laura joined Daniel, standing beside him as an equal. Together, they shared more than just words. They opened their minds fully, allowing the envoys to glimpse humanity's collective consciousness. The aliens saw flashes of Earth's history, the wars, the suffering, the struggles, but also its beauty, creativity, and resilience. They felt the unity that now connected billions of minds, a bond stronger than anything they had ever encountered. Zinara recoiled, unable to process the flood of emotions. "This is unnatural," she muttered, though her thoughts betrayed her unease. Kaler, on the other hand, felt a deep sense of awe. He realized that humanity had transcended its limitations, becoming something far greater than anyone had anticipated. Viral broke the silence, speaking aloud in a melodic chirp. "What do you want from us?" she asked, addressing Daniel and Laura. Daniel's response was simple but profound. "Nothing," he thought, projecting his answer to all three envoys. "We seek only peace, but know this, we will defend ourselves if necessary." The envoys exchanged uneasy glances. They had come seeking answers, but instead they found themselves facing a species that had grown beyond their understanding. Zinara clenched her fists, unwilling to admit defeat, while Kaler felt a spark of hope. Viral spread her wings, signaling retreat. As the envoys returned to their ships, the humans remained standing in the square, united and unshaken. They knew this encounter was only the beginning. The galaxy had taken notice of Earth, and soon decisions would be made that would shape the future of both humanity and the stars. Back aboard the Galactic Council's orbital station, tensions were running high. The envoys' encounter with humanity had left a deep impression on them, but it had also widened the cracks within the Council itself. Zinara paced angrily across the chamber, her tail flicking behind her like a whip. "This is unacceptable," she hissed, slamming her clawed hand onto the table. "They are dangerous. Their power grows every day. If we don't act now, they will surpass us. And then what? Will they see us as equals, or as enemies to be crushed?" Kaler floated silently in his water-filled pod, his calm demeanor contrasting sharply with Zinara's fury. "You're letting fear cloud your judgment," he said softly, his thoughts resonating clearly in everyone's minds. "Humanity has shown no hostility. They seek peace, not conquest. Why can't you see that?" Viral flapped her wings nervously, perching on the edge of her seat. "Both of you have valid points," she chirped, her voice trembling slightly. "But we cannot ignore the facts. Their transformation is unprecedented. The energy readings from Earth continue to rise. Even our own scientists admit they don't fully understand what's happening down there." The debate raged on, dividing the Council into two factions. Some members sided with Zinara, advocating for preemptive action against Earth. Others supported Kaler, believing that humanity deserved respect and recognition as equals. The arguments grew louder, filling the chamber with a cacophony of voices, clicks, and chirps. Meanwhile, back on Earth, humanity continued its rapid evolution. Daniel Carter and Laura Bennett worked tirelessly to guide their fellow humans through this new phase. They helped organize gatherings where people could connect more deeply, sharing knowledge and visions of the future. Together, they envisioned a world free of conflict, a world where all beings, human or otherwise, could coexist peacefully. Under their guidance, humanity began constructing massive structures that pulsed with energy. These towers, unlike anything built before, reached high into the sky, their surfaces glowing faintly in the night. They weren't just buildings, they were symbols of humanity's newfound unity and strength. Each structure broadcast waves of thought and emotion into space, sending a message of peace, but also a warning. Humanity was ready to defend itself if necessary. The Galactic Council couldn't ignore these developments. The energy signals from Earth were growing stronger, disrupting nearby star systems and causing concern among other alien civilizations. Some council members argued that humanity's actions posed a threat to galactic stability. Others believed that humanity's evolution marked the beginning of a new era, one where cooperation, not domination, would define interstellar relations. Zenera secretly began planning a covert strike against Earth. She enlisted the help of a few trusted allies, determined to eliminate the perceived threat before it grew any stronger. But Kaler, sensing her intentions, intervened. Using his telepathic abilities, he intercepted her plans and warned humanity in time. When Zenera's fleet approached Earth, they were met with an unexpected response. Humanity unleashed a dazzling display of psychic energy, creating a shimmering barrier around the planet. The fleet's weapons malfunctioned, and their ships were disabled without causing harm. It was clear that humanity had mastered forces far beyond the Council's understanding. Humbled and divided, the Council realized they had no choice but to reconsider their stance. Humanity wasn't just a species to be feared. They were a force to be reckoned with. And as the galaxy watched, the stage was set for a new chapter in the history of both Earth and the stars. The failed attack on Earth sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. Zenera's plan, once shrouded in secrecy, was now exposed, and her reputation lay in ruins. The council chamber buzzed with accusations and recriminations as members turned on one another. Some demanded Zenera's removal, while others argued that her actions, though reckless, were driven by a desire to protect their collective interests. Kaler remained calm, his glowing eyes scanning the room. He knew this moment was crucial, not just for the Council, but for the future of the galaxy. "We cannot continue like this," Kaler said finally, his thoughts resonating clearly in everyone's minds. "Our divisions have weakened us. Humanity has shown us what true unity looks like. Instead of fearing them, we should learn from them." Zenera glared at him, her pride wounded but not broken. "Learn from them," she spat. "They are unpredictable, dangerous. How can we trust beings who evolved so quickly?" Kaler floated closer to her, his movements graceful and deliberate. "Because they chose peace when they could have chosen war. They disabled our fleet without harming anyone. That is restraint, a quality we claim to value but often fail to practice." The council fell silent, reflecting on his words. Slowly, a fragile consensus began to form. They would reach out to humanity again, but this time with humility and respect. On Earth, Daniel Carter and Laura Bennett sensed the shift long before the council's envoys returned. The psychic energy connecting humanity had grown stronger, allowing them to feel the emotions of distant beings. They knew the aliens were divided, struggling to decide their next move. When the council's ships descended once more, Daniel and Laura stepped forward to meet them, their presence radiating calm confidence. This time, the envoys came unarmed, their expressions cautious but sincere. Kaler spoke first, his voice gentle yet firm. "We have wronged you," he admitted. "Our actions were driven by fear, not understanding. We wish to make amends." Daniel nodded slowly, his thoughts clear and steady. "Fear is natural," he replied, projecting his words into their minds. "But it should never guide your decisions. We do not seek conflict. We seek connection." Laura added her voice to the conversation, her thoughts flowing like a warm current. "We are no longer alone, not on Earth, and not in the galaxy. Together, we can build something greater than any of us could achieve alone." The envoys exchanged glances, their doubts melting away under the weight of humanity's sincerity. For the first time, they truly understood what Earth had become, a beacon of hope and unity in a fractured universe. Back aboard the council station, the debate continued, but the tone had shifted. Many members now saw humanity not as a threat but as an opportunity. Vurel proposed a formal alliance, suggesting that Earth join the Galactic Council as an equal partner. Zanara opposed the idea fiercely, but her influence had waned. The majority voted in favor of peace. The treaty negotiations took place aboard a neutral space station orbiting a distant moon. Humanity's representatives, Daniel, Laura, and others like them, spoke not with words but with pure thought, their ideas resonating deeply with the council members. They outlined a vision of coexistence, where knowledge and resources would be shared freely among all species. In return, they asked only for recognition and respect. As the treaty was signed, a wave of relief swept through the galaxy. The Council realized that humanity's evolution marked the beginning of a new era, one defined not by fear, but by cooperation. And though Earth remained silent, its voice echoed louder than ever across the stars. The signing of the treaty marked a turning point, not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. On the neutral space station, Daniel Carter and Laura Bennett stood alongside the council members, their thoughts flowing freely as they shared their vision of unity and peace. The agreement was simple yet profound. All species would work together as equals, sharing knowledge, resources, and ideas to build a better future. It was a promise to set aside fear and embrace understanding. As the ceremony concluded, Kaler floated forward, his glowing tendrils swaying gently in the water-filled pod. "This is only the beginning," he said, his voice resonating with hope. "Humanity has shown us that change is possible, even for those who once seemed divided beyond repair. Together, we can create something greater than any of us could achieve alone." Zanara watched from the sidelines, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. Though she had opposed the alliance, even she couldn't deny the shift she felt in the air. For the first time in centuries, the council's chamber felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. Her pride still stung, but deep down, she knew that resisting humanity had been a mistake. Perhaps, she thought, there was wisdom in adapting rather than fighting. Back on Earth, the news of the treaty spread quickly through the collective consciousness. People celebrated not with words but with shared emotions: joy, relief, and determination. Cities lit up with glowing lights, and the towering structures that pulsed with energy now shone brighter than ever. These beacons of unity were no longer symbols of defense but of connection, reaching out to the stars like open hands. Daniel and Laura returned home to find their world transformed. Humanity had entered a new phase, one where creativity and collaboration flourished. Scientists worked alongside alien experts to solve problems that had once seemed impossible. Artists created works inspired by the beauty of other worlds, blending human and alien cultures into something entirely new. Even the environment began to heal, as advanced technologies from the Council helped restore damaged ecosystems. Laura spent her days teaching others how to use their newfound abilities responsibly. She showed them how to share thoughts without overwhelming one another, how to respect boundaries even in a world without words. Daniel focused on helping humanity adapt to its role in the galaxy. He traveled to distant planets, meeting alien species and learning from their ways of life. Through these exchanges, humanity discovered that it was not so different from others. It, too, had fears, hopes, and dreams. The Galactic Council also underwent changes. Inspired by humanity's example, its members began working more closely together, setting aside old rivalries and prejudices. They realized that unity wasn't about losing individuality, but about finding strength in diversity. Earth became a model for what the galaxy could achieve if it embraced cooperation over conflict. Years passed, and humanity continued to evolve. The silence that had once frightened the Council was now seen as a gift, a reminder that true communication went beyond words. Humans and aliens alike learned to listen not just with their ears, but with their hearts and minds. One evening, Daniel stood on a hill overlooking the city, watching as the glowing towers stretched toward the sky. Laura joined him, her presence warm and comforting. Together, they gazed at the stars, feeling the hum of countless lives connected across the galaxy. "We've come so far," Laura thought, her voice soft in Daniel's mind. "Yes," he replied. But this is just the beginning. As they stood there, hand in hand, it was clear that humanity's journey was far from over. Once a fractured species teetering on self-destruction, Earth had become a beacon of hope, a shining example of what was possible when beings chose to rise above fear and embrace unity. And though the galaxy was vast and full of unknowns, humanity faced the future with courage, ready to shape the cosmos alongside its newfound allies.